I'm John Large, I'm an independent nuclear consultant.
And right, what are you doing in Stroud today?
Well, today I'm talking to the Green Party. I'm talking about the insurmountable problems, as I put it, of actually managing and disposing of not just the new nuclear waste that are going to derive from new nuclear power plants around here, but also the enormous mountain of legacy, the legacy of radioactive wastes.
And you were talking about some of the problems around that legacy. What were those?
Well, like what I said was the government's strategy is not much more than digging an enormous deep hole and throwing the waste down it. And then I explored the difficulties of actually containing the waste down there, and particularly looking at the uncertainties, the range of uncertainties. You know, we have to dispose of, from the legacy of our nuclear development, we have to dispose of 4.5 million cubic metres of radioactive waste. We have to somehow manage that and keep it away from mankind's environment, not for a few hundred years, not for thousands, tens of thousands, but I reckon millions of years. Now the problem is, the arguments I put tonight hopefully were complex arguments, but I know they were damn sight more complex than the arguments put by government in the consultation documents that are now pleading with local authorities to take on the role of building a geological waste repository in their patches. And don't think that the good denizens of Stroud are exempt of this, because these repositories could go anywhere in the country, particularly if you've got a nuclear power station, because that's a nuclear licensed site, and you have the benefit of two.
Mm-hmm. We have Oldbury's about 16 miles away, and Berkeley's much less.
Much less.
And one of the talks is about moving some of the nuclear waste from Oldbury to Berkeley.
Yes, and of course what you're doing by moving nuclear waste, you have to package it, you have to extract it, and package it. And the majority of nuclear waste at these power plants is actually integrally contained inside the power plant itself. It's the graphite core. Each power station has 2 reactors, about 1,000 tonnes of graphite in each reactor. That has very dusty, has to be extracted, packaged, and then transported. So you have risks of actually taking it out, risk of packaging it to the workers, transportation risks. And by the way, the International Atomic Energy Agency says that the transportation of nuclear waste is the most vulnerable activity. And then you've got the problem when you get it to the other power plant, packages and put it in stores. So it's fraught with risks, it's fraught with unknowns, and really it's like a Chinese puzzle. Why take it out of one big box and put it in lots of smaller boxes, only to transport it and put it in another big box?
This evening you shared some of the mistakes that have been made. Like, I was horrified to learn about the amount of nuclear waste put into the sea off Jersey, but haven't we learnt from that? And aren't we going to be better with the new nuclear power stations?
Oh yeah, of course we. Sometimes I'm having trouble answering that question very seriously. Sorry. Of course, David Cameron is a very serious and intent man on this. Look, have we learned by our mistakes? The only thing the nuclear industry has done is benefited by our mistakes. Up until 1983, this country dumped the greater part of the nuclear waste that it generated in developing its nuclear power plants, in developing its military strategies like the nuclear weapons we have and the nuclear reactors for our submarines. Of all the waste dumpers in the world, apart from the Soviets, we're not quite sure how much Soviets, Britain by far dumped the largest amount. We dumped 77.6% of all the radioactive waste dumped at sea. Not only that, we dumped it at locations where are relatively accessible. Off Jersey in the Herd Deep, which is not particularly deep, off the Canary Isles. But even worse, and I didn't explain this tonight, you said to a master of a ship carrying radioactive waste, you're carrying a whole load of radioactive waste here. Your seamen are allowed to have so many millisieverts per year, so that means while they're on your ship, they're getting this radiation dose called a millisievert. If you're running against a strong headwind, well, you're going to have to turn back. So dump the waste when you reach the time limit. We don't know where the radioactive waste was dumped, so we can't recover it.
Gosh, that's quite shocking. It's completely thrown me off asking my next question.
What I want to say is, it shows what a callous technological adventure this was. I mean, I worked in the nuclear industry. We didn't really care, or were not concerned about what was happening to the back end of our technology. And it's only recently, in trying to justify a new front end, the new reactors to technology, that we're putting up this claim that we know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing because we haven't done it before. And nor has anyone else in the world done this before. No one has successfully disposed of or managed without risk high-level radioactive waste, intermediate-level radioactive waste, and the hordes and mountains of low-level waste.
So we're really offsetting this problem for future generations. How many sort of generations are we talking about?
Well, I was talking in terms tonight, I was talking not in terms of hundreds, thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of years. I targeted about 1 million to 3.5 million years. And that's the legacy, the intergenerational equity that we have to share with all those future generations. We have to say to them, we've made a decision for you, is it sustainable? We won't be able to tell whether our design, our management process of radioactive waste will actually be appropriate in 1 million to 2.5 million, 3 million years' time. And that's the query. So it's not sustainable for us.
That sounds nice. Thank you very much. That's